Hi, and welcome back, everyone, to a brand new episode of the Journey Beyond podcast. As I've promised, I want to make these episodes as short and as interesting as possible for you. And as we are already on this journey of self-discovery and understanding what makes you truly you, the work of identity becomes so important and so relevant. And why am I dedicating this season to identity work? Well, because over the last years, while I was going through my identity work studies and my NLP courses and certifications, I understood while working with other clients and with other coaches that identity is always the root. It's always the foundational problem, or the foundation on which these problems are being built. And so for today's episode, I wanted to bring up a concept which I really find super interesting, tackling the 8 phases that a human goes through when developing his identity, from the moment that he was born until the day that he dies. And there are different constructs and different phases from which we can derive certain problems which are happening within our life, which we are not maybe even aware of, because now being in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, you don't think about the things that have happened to you 20, 30, 40 years ago, but that have possibly influenced your life to such a significant extent, hence why you are now wanting to work with a psychologist or with a coach, or why you feel like you have so much work to do, but you don't really know where it's deriving from. So here is a very interesting concept from Erik Erikson, which was a psychoanalyst, and he took up on the concepts of Sigmund Freud about identity and how it is being shaped. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'm just going to explain the concept as a whole, which is quite interesting because there are 8 different phases which a human goes through from the moment he is born, which are all being labeled with virtues and risks that we have to assess, and depending upon the meeting of or the well-caring and fulfillment of these needs and desires, we build either a virtue, a strength that we carry on throughout our life, or the risk, which is then not being met actually manifests into a doubt, into a problem, into a mindset imprint that says the world is XYZ because of Z. So to break this down, very simple. And I think the starting block already gives a huge understanding and a huge realization already why some people are fearing life and are scared of certain situations in life. So from the age that you were born, 0, you come into this world and you are 100% dependent upon your caregiver. The big virtue here is care. Why? Because you either build a trust or a mistrust towards the world if in this first year where you are 100% reliant upon the care of your parents, this care is not being met. Let's say because the parents didn't feel ready, or they are too busy, or they have their own problems going on, this little child or this little newborn doesn't understand the world yet. And based upon this care that this child receives, it either labels the world as a safe place or as an unsafe place. And it builds trust or mistrust towards it. Hence, where 20, 30 years later, you have a general mistrust towards life. You have a general mistrust towards people and society. This can potentially, not saying guaranteed, but potentially be caused through a certain mistrust that you were experiencing throughout your childhood years. Now, let's say after the year of 1 to 3, you then, you start walking. You start speaking the first words. So for you in this stage of years 1 to 3, it is very important to understand, how does this world work? Can I experience it on my own? And the great virtues and risk here are being autonomy and guilt or dependency. Meaning that if a child comes into the world and it is being taught that the world is its oyster, go out there, discover and make experiences for yourself. See if this is hot and you touch it, you might hurt yourself. right? This is an experience that imprints for life. Why? Because you understand that heat equals danger. Or if you then, on the other hand side, want to discover and want to walk by yourself, you want to experience and make certain decisions, that you're not constantly being watched over, overprotected. Of course, I mean, I always have to put this in reference. I'm not a mother yet. I'm not a father yet. So what does this mean? What does this say about me? This says that I don't have the experience yet to truly understand what it means to take care of a child. But what psychoanalytics, what they have discovered about the development of the identity, it says that if you give your child a certain assertiveness of independence, it creates the sense of autonomy. It creates the sense of, I can do this on my own. I can be self-reliant, and I can discover, and I have this will, I can create willpower to do things effectively. If you're now overprotecting and you are taking away this independence and autonomy, a child might feel and develop throughout his years that he will always need to be dependent. He is guilty because he didn't create, or he didn't fully develop this willpower to do things on his own. So he always feels to a certain degree like he's not good enough to do this on his own. And these little small incremental changes and incremental adjustments then create, over the long run, a value system that is based upon, I am not good or strong enough to do this on my own. So now, then we have the years between 3 and 6, right? Where children start asking the big questions. Big questions such as, why is this ball round? Why is fire hot? Where did I come from? Did I come out of mommy's belly? How did that work? Right? These little incremental questions. And the important step here is to understand that through the development of this creative side of you, of this letting their kids ask the bigger questions, letting them discover for themselves the answers, and not cutting them down because there is just not the interest yet to talk about this field, children create a sense of purpose through creatively asserting their questions about life and getting answers to then think. The development of their brain is enabling them then to open themselves to this path, to this new interesting endeavor where you're like, all right, I want to discover this. This is interesting. And these questions, they stream out, cutting children off of these questions, not enabling them to discover creatively life, enables a sense of guilt towards ambition. And again, this later down the line can then lead to a scenario where you feel like you're not good enough. You're not able to truly discover what life is about. You feel like you're just a wheel in a big system, and you're not really able to express that actually you might be able to create your own little system, your own little world around you. So all of these factors have a huge play in the development of your character. And as you can maybe tell a little bit or sense out, that these small little mistakes or small little tasks that were not being met or desires that were not being met further down the line create and accumulate bigger problems. I am not good enough. Feeling stuck. Not being able to fully express myself creatively, being able to not fully communicate clearly what my desires and my thoughts are. These are all, if we are leading them back, if we go back in time, they all have their roots in our development as a child. And at this point, I want to make a quick mark because this goes out to parents. I'm not a parent yet, so I don't know how this will work. I'm just telling you, it is absolutely okay. Nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. We are all just the results of our upbringing and our education and the way that we were being raised by our parents. The only thing that we can do is we can try to make the best out of it. We can try to do it better if we sense already some issues from our upbringing. But nobody's perfect, and you will make mistakes. Like, the one who tries to make everything perfect will realize that along the line he actually left so many breadcrumbs for mistakes to happen down the line that it is literally impossible to make everything right. So don't worry about this. Identity is something that is permeable, that is able to transform, and that is able to be built upon in your later years. You can deprogram and reprogram yourself to truly uncover, let go, and develop into the direction that your heart desires and you truly feel comfortable with. So now going over to the years of 6 to 12. This is the age of learning and of competence. People want to accomplish and to contribute. Success leads to a feeling of competence. Repeated failure or negative feedback results in feelings of inferiority. So here we maybe start becoming part of social circles. We are maybe being put into different team sports or solo sports, right? Depriving or being able to experience a sense of competence, being able to understand that if I put effort in, I will get a result A or B out, and if I don't put effort in, I will not get this result out, or will get a different result. These differences play a huge role and a huge part in understanding and creating the sense of competitiveness. I want to create something. I want to bring value to the world. I want to be of purpose. I want to do more. I want to, be of great service to society. Depriving one of this ability or this social competence can lead to problems down the line where you feel inferior towards other people. Because the sense of not being able to do sports, not being able to be in social circles where you have to, in a certain way, adapt, learn, be able to communicate properly, to have a good and safe environment, be able to assert and assess your needs and your desires, creates a sense of belonging, creates a sense of learning and competence in communication, competence and confidence in communication, in managing emotions and thoughts and people, being able to have a certain confidence that you are able to do things. So a lack of feeling that you're not good enough can come from so many different ways. Being able to not truly assert your autonomy, not being able to show that you want to achieve, and acting up on this can lead to a feeling of not being good enough. Stage 5 is actually one of the most important ones, because it is the phase of role and confusion. Because now we're being in the age of 12 to 18, right? We go to high school, and this is where our identity truly starts to shape, because we have created, or we have gone through the foundational layers already of trust, of willpower, of social belonging, of purpose. The foundation has been set. And from this base of foundation, the high school years for most of us are the most important, because we start going into or becoming interested in certain social groups. You start testing yourself out. You go to the book club. You start joining the football team or the sports team. You start going or hanging out with a certain group of people that you identify most due to your interest in music. The goths, the nerds, the IT techs, the cool people, right? We try to adapt, and we try to get into different social circles depending upon the foundation that we have built. And this belongingness to a social group shapes your identity the most, because Being able to successfully integrate into a social group means that you have found your role in the environment that you are in society. And the succession in finding your role in this environment leads to a certain confidence of the future. Meaning that if you find your tribe, you know that you can feel safe in this environment, you can develop, you can express your ideas, you have like-minded individuals that you can work with. But failing to integrate into social circles can lead to the very first proper identity crisis, because this not belonging to any social circle creates confusion about who you are, confusion about your values, what your purpose is. And this is why puberty depression is a real thing, because if you don't successfully integrate into social circles, this confusion will trap you, and because you will not understand what is my purpose here? If I don't belong anywhere, what am I doing here, right? So this phase is really important to work with, and really important for parents to assess as well, because obviously your child is not a newborn anymore. It is actually becoming a teenager, a young adult, and has his own opinions, has his own style, his own thoughts, his own emotional management. And it's, as a parent, you're just being there watching over it, but you can't really influence it too much, because the child kind of has his own mind and his own will that he has created over those years, or not. So this phase is one of the most important, because this is where we truly experience our first identity crisis, one out of multiple when coming into the years. So that is by Erik Erikson. Phase number 5 is the most important phase within this developmental process of your identity. Stage number 6 is then the intimacy versus isolation phase. This is from the age of 18 to 40, where you get into university, you start having your first serious relationships, you build strong environments, social circles and relationships. You maybe even get married, you have kids on your own. And the real virtue here is love. So if you have been raised and you have found your tribe, your role, your identity has developed to a healthy point, love is something that is very accessible to you, and you might have no difficulties at all expressing your love towards your partner, towards your friends, towards the family that you want to build, right? But being deprived upon this foundational level, things don't work out well. You have a low sense of, you have a sense of inadequacy. You don't feel good enough. You don't feel like you belong to a social circle. You don't feel like you trust the world. It is very hard for you to then trust in other people, to trust in your partner, or to actually, even when dating people, you have trust issues. You can't depend upon the other person, because you constantly think something will go wrong. You constantly think they will be cheating on you. You constantly have this mistrust in the world. You don't have the willpower to fully assert and express your desires for yourself, what you need. So being able to not fully work and live through this love, not being able to trust the world, not being able to creatively assert your desires and your needs, not being able to fit into any environment and into any role, this is where you really start feeling empty within. You really start, because the privation of love can feel very threatening and emotionally isolating. Because this emotional isolation usually comes from a lack of love that you either give to yourself or receive from others, because you are not able to fully integrate into society and not able to receive or even see that people are trying to give you love and trying to express love to you. So this is the phase where love becomes very, very important in your life. Because again, if this is the cycle that you have been through, you find a partner, you have mistrust, you can't really assert or communicate your desires, you had feelings of inadequacy and not being good enough because you didn't have the chance to fully express and discover group sports or be able to ask the big questions. Imagine what will happen if you now find a partner that is just like you and you have a child. How will you raise this child? How will you raise the baby? Based upon the imprinted identity that has been given and passed over to you. And if you don't become aware of these patterns and you just think they're normal, you normalize them, you pass them over from generation to generation to generation. It is always very interesting when it comes to Gabo Mate once said is that identity is the foundation of every single one of our problems. Usually we think in terms of trauma, and traumas are the groundbreaking denominators, what shapes, constrains, or elevates our beingness. But there is a better mantra that you can go about. Don't ask why the trauma, ask why the pain. Because in this sense, you can start asking yourself, what am I feeling that I'm lacking? What is it that I'm not being able to express, and what is it that I'm not being able to give to myself? What do I believe and what do I feel is it that I'm lacking in my life? Am I not trusting enough? Am I not being able to receive or give love? Am I not able to express my feelings properly? And am I not able to communicate properly? These are all questions that you can ask yourself that determine who you are, or what is actually wrong about you, or what is lacking in your life. And then we can pose the question, and then we can start working with this basis. We can go back into those years and see what are the patterns, the overarching patterns in your life, break them down, deprogram and reprogram your belief system, your trust system, your communication system, and then from there on start building your identity up to a healthier and safer place. And then we have actually phase number 7, which is between the ages of 40 to 65, which is generativity versus stagnation. Now we focus on contribution. We are a set part of society, we have children, we maybe even already have grandchildren. Now the question becomes, what am I contributing to society? What am I contributing to my children? And again, about what I just said, if there is lack and we were not able to fully feel and express this, or learn how to express our own needs and emotions, we sometimes have that strong or failing to contribute because of this lack of information, lack of communication, lack of self-love, lack of self-confidence, lack of positive value systems. We start feeling stagnant, aimless, stuck. And this is where in your later years, if you have not assessed and become aware of the areas in your life where you are maybe lacking, this is where then a second or a third or a fourth identity crisis comes in, because again, life starts becoming senseless. You feel useless. You have no purpose. And this is very important, because then the end result of that is actually phase 8, and it's integrity versus despair. That's from the age of 65 onwards until the end of the years. Because here everything accumulates together, everything comes together, and the question becomes, what have I contributed? What impact have I left on the world? What life have I led? And if the answer is, I have led a successful life, I have great friends, great family, I gave on great values, I have contributed to society, to my family, to my kids, to my grandkids, I have given them the right values, you feel fulfilled, you have a fulfilled life. But if you fail in doing all of the before, this is where, again, life starts feeling useless, senseless. You feel a lack of trust again for life. You feel despair. And this is where it becomes very interesting and very important for you to it's never too late. It's never too late to start working on these things, because imagine if you still have another 30, 40 years to live. That's a long time living with inadequacy, despair, and a feeling of mistrust towards the world. So start working on these things. So these are the 8 stages that your identity is being formed throughout your lifetime by Erik Erikson, which I find a super interesting take and definitely worthwhile getting into and dissecting, as we did in this episode. So a couple of things which are quite cool. So in identity work, when we work with these stages, or we work with certain belief system, we value map your life, the values that you have been brought up with, where they're coming from, where they're stemming from. There are certain practices that we introduce in identity work that can help you right away to tackle these problems. For example, in coaching, we often use things such as narrative construction. So basically understanding the story clients tell themselves. Or we can go further and go for biographical timelines. So here we are mapping out meaningful experiences. We always pinpoint and see, okay, what is the root of the problem and how can we change that? How can we reframe that? How can we put new lights to that? How can we add new values into that? How can we deprogram and reprogram? I love using the words deprogramming and reprogramming, because it's nothing else. It is literally just looking upon your life and understanding that 50% of it is de-learning what you have learned through your upbringing, and then the next 50% is understanding and learning what truly makes you. So then there's other methods such as future self-lettering. So you can write letters towards the future version of you that you want to become. And the dialogical self is another way of working in identity work, which is quite cool because it's working with those multiple inner voices and inner roles. This is exactly the parts work that I've presented already in the other episodes, where different parts of you that hold different beliefs and have been imprinted to different areas and timelines within your life, they get a stage, they get some light, and they get a voice to talk and to express what is actually wrong with them. From there on, we can start aligning them back again, and we can see where this is all coming from. And when we understand and when we shed some light upon the parts that we, preferred to keep hidden, and that we kept hidden, then we can actually truly start transforming. Again, identity work is not a one-size-fits-all. It's a super individualized process, and it's definitely not something that is there to be solved within one session. No, identity work is a lifelong progress, because as you discovered in today's episode, identity is something that is constantly being shaped through the experiences that we make, whether they are good or bad. So again, here my appel goes out to you. I'm an identity coach myself. I don't say that you have to work with me specifically, but go out there and find someone that you can work with when it comes to your identity. Identity is the denominating factor in your life, and it will control you if you don't become aware of its roots and its causes. On the other hand side, if you feel like this episode resonated with you, and if what I'm saying, me as a person, my beingness, Tim, my words, and some of the informations, techniques, and methods that I share within this podcast interest you, I offer identity work coaching in a program called the Authentic Self Blueprint, which is a 3-month program where we actually go through 4 different phases of realigning, or actually go through a process of shedding light upon these parts of you, realigning or assessing your current state and your current value maps and what makes you you, and then deprogramming and reprogramming them with healthier and better values, habits, formations, belief systems, and from there onwards imprinting them into your future self and uplifting this with healthy habits and healthy affirmations, healthy protocols that you can follow to become the version that you're truly meant to be. So if this rings to you, feel free to reach out to me either via email on tim-coaching@proton.me, or hit me up on Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever you can find me on social media, and let's work together. Let's find out what is holding you back so you can become a better and healthier version for yourself and for the people in your life. I salute you and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for another beautiful episode. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Take care and see you in the next one.